Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the organizers and community of MIT Enterprise Forum Saudi Arabia, I'm very delighted to welcome you all to this year's StartSmart Conference. Entrepreneurs thrive on chaos. They pursue opportunity beyond resources controlled. And despite the seismic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, entrepreneurs continue to prove to be resilient and tenacious in the face of adversity and uncertainty. Today, we will be celebrating some of those inspiring entrepreneurs who have been through the journey of the MIT Enterprise Forum competition of Saudi Arabia during such an unprecedented time. It takes an ecosystem to get a fledgling startup off the ground. It's more evident, though, that the COVID-19 crisis has created strategic inflection points in many industries, marking the beginning of massive and significant changes, and hence more opportunity for innovations. Therefore, we need more than ever to reinvigorate innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems by creating a shared vision, harnessing more interconnectedness, and enabling the alignment of various stakeholder efforts. Today's event is bringing a great lineup of renowned speakers who will be sharing new trends and some interesting practices on how we can collectively create a new frontier of more practical and meaningful entrepreneurialism and innovation that foster economic growth and social prosperity. I hope that today's sessions and presentations will inspire new ideas and provoke practical dialogues around the ways that we can make our respective entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem both vibrant and robust. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to the 5th edition of the MITEF Saudi Startup Competition and StartSmart Conference. I'm delighted to host you virtually, our national and international guests, partners, investors, and entrepreneurs to celebrate together our new generation of Saudi thinkers and entrepreneurs and share our thoughts and collective ideas to impact and influence the entrepreneurship ecosystem and contribute to moving forwards towards a brighter tomorrow. I would like on this occasion to praise the support of all governmental and non-governmental organizations. Despite the hard times we have gone through due to the global pandemic, entrepreneurs were able to overcome this challenge with a lot of creativity and innovation that contributed to curbing this pandemic. The startups we witnessed in the 5th edition of the competition represent our epitome of pride owing to their demonstrated, originally inventive and innovative projects and brilliant ideas that will by certain profoundly empower them to compete not only across the MENA region but beyond worldwide. We are pleased that the competition has proven its position as a platform for attracting the most important national talents that reflect the honorable image of the country in the field of innovation and entrepreneurship, and in a manner that embodies our social responsibility aimed at building a promising, ambitious generation capable of keeping pace with the future. This year, the MITEF Saudi Startup Competition saw remarkable progress in terms of quality of entries in various categories and fields including e-commerce, education technologies, consumer services, productivity applications, in addition to digital technologies and healthcare. The total number of applicants since the launch of the competition in 2015 has reached more than 8,500 participants from all over Saudi Arabia. Dear participants, I would like to thank and congratulate each one of you for your support and commitment to make the 5th edition of the MITEF Saudi Startup Competition a success throughout this challenging period. Whatever your role, you have contributed to help develop the competition, attract qualified talent, promote entrepreneurial spirit and boundless innovation, embodying Saudi Arabia's equally ambitious Vision 2030. We feel blessed to have constituted this phenomenal event dedicated to educating and connecting entrepreneurs and supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem on a larger scale. We are here for you as you are here for us. We would like to extend our most sincere gratitude to everyone who believes in our mission to inspire the encouraging generation of brilliant entrepreneurs equipped with the striking capability of pioneering in an ambitiously driven ecosystem that chases and embraces all that is creative, original, and innovative, fashioned by our phenomenal youth. We wish all of you the best of luck and many congratulations to the winners. Thank you.
Nurturing an entrepreneurship ecosystem is an iterative process that involves, in part, leveraging lessons learned. Kaya Wald will be sharing some insights and lessons learned from her personal journey as an entrepreneur. I do hope that you'll find such lessons both useful and valuable in your own personal entrepreneurial endeavors.
Hello, and thank you in advance for taking the time to listen in. My name is Katya Wald. I have never been an entrepreneur, did not go to MIT. I don't even have an MBA. And I'm not really all that technical. In fact, I graduated from college in 1998 with a degree in Spanish. At this point, you're probably wondering why I was invited here to speak to you at all. But I hope you'll stay with me. I was invited here to talk about my experience and lessons learned from the MIT Enterprise Forum of Cambridge, an organization I've had the privilege of running for the last 7 years as executive director. But I can't honestly talk about the lessons I've learned from MITEF Cambridge without sharing what I've personally learned from my professional experiences during a period of time where here in the U.S., powered by the dot-com boom in the late 1990s and again by the Great Recession in 2008, interest in entrepreneurship and startup ecosystems really ramped up. So, without further ado, here are 5 quick personal lessons I've learned that I hope will make you think a little bit about the challenges of entrepreneurship and maybe even how you can continue to shape the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. One of my first jobs after college was at a dot-com startup called Garage.com, where I was a marketing coordinator. For those of you who might not be old enough to remember, the dot-com bubble lasted from about 1995 to 2001, and it was an insanely crazy time. Money was pouring into tech and internet startups. That, even to an inexperienced young Spanish major, didn't seem to make any sense at all. They didn't seem like solid business ideas. But it was really exciting to be a part of, nevertheless. It was sort of irrational exuberance everywhere we went. Garage.com was in fact a startup that existed to help startups get funded. It was founded by a serial entrepreneur, and the company itself was backed by some major Silicon Valley VCs. Garage wasn't a venture capital fund, though. They were more like an early-stage accelerator before early-stage accelerators were a thing. The idea behind Garage was to use the internet to democratize the funding process for entrepreneurs globally. Entrepreneurs were able to submit their business plans online, where they wound up in a database that could be searched by a network of accredited investors looking for deals. While Garage helped over 100 startups raise over $400 million in those days, I do not remember a single startup that came from a randomly submitted, non-Silicon Valley-based business plan online. Why was that? As it turns out, the angel and venture community at that time was not ready to embrace the fact that good ideas could indeed come from places other than Silicon Valley, Boston, and a few other tech hubs. Also, they still relied on their personal networks to get deals. And there was my first lesson. Market timing. It's both an art and a science, and even experienced entrepreneurs backed by big-name VCs get it wrong. The current managing director at Garage explained in a blog post a while back, and I'm quoting here, "We thought that venture capital would go global in parallel with entrepreneurship. While some new venture capital firms did spring up in innovation hubs around the world, and some U.S. venture capital firms did extend to other markets, the venture capital community remained overwhelmingly concentrated in Silicon Valley and a few other cities. Most innovation hubs did not have the critical mass to sustain broad, deep, early-stage venture capital communities." Eventually, Garage.com rebranded themselves as Garage Technology Ventures, a seed and early-stage venture capital fund. And there came my second lesson. Even when you get it wrong, it is possible to pivot and move on. My third lesson came from my first time working at the MIT Enterprise Forum in Cambridge. Yes, you did hear that right. I did work here once before, and this was at a time when I had far less gray hair to cover. While at Garage.com, I had reluctantly, to be honest, volunteered for the MIT Enterprise Forum to help put together a workshop for entrepreneurs called How Did They Do That?, which showcased stories of entrepreneurs who found success, even in the wake of some real challenges. I was reluctant to volunteer because I was not really all that excited about working for free with a bunch of what I considered older folks. But what can I say? I was young and I didn't know any better. However, when I got laid off from Garage.com during the dot-com bust, it was a very hard time to find a job. So I reached out to the network of people that I met through volunteering. I needed some help. As it turns out, the former executive director at the MIT Enterprise Forum Cambridge had an opening. Thus, my third lesson, networking and connections matter. This is especially true for entrepreneurs at the earliest stages. Founders can find those early customers, employees, and investors through introductions from their network. So work your network. Attend everything you can. Do not be afraid to tell people what you're working on and tell them how they can help you. Nobody is going to steal your idea. You never know who will be able to help you and how, in return, you might be able to help them with a simple personal introduction. A good entrepreneurial ecosystem works best when the people in it are willing to give first. My fourth lesson came from my time at MIT's Deshpande Center for Technological Innovation. The Deshpande Center was founded in 2002 in order to help MIT faculty and students move their innovative technologies to the market. To facilitate that, we awarded research grants and educated grantees about the innovation process, how to commercialize their inventions, and how to launch startups. And we matched them with mentors in the community who could help get them from idea to impact. So lesson number 4 of that experience might be a little bit different from all the other lessons, but it was really eye-opening for me working with people who were still in the lab. So what I learned was, in order to effectively spin out a technology from university research, it's really important, even at that stage, to do your research with commercialization in mind. Thinking about the potential target market and the end users for your innovation, even while you're still in the lab, allows you to de-risk the technology accordingly. Lesson number 5 finally brings me to my current role here at the MIT Enterprise Forum, Cambridge. I have had the privilege to work with so many experienced entrepreneurs, service providers, investors, and other people in the ecosystem who volunteer their own personal time to share their experience with the entrepreneurs in our network. With their help, we have helped thousands of people through the process of defining and or refining their company's target market, product positioning, business model, and go-to-market strategy. What I found, though, is that because it's still pretty trendy to be an entrepreneur these days, many new entrepreneurs aren't really solving problems that need to be solved. They just think they are. So lesson number 5, validate, validate, validate. If you're going to dive into being an entrepreneur, make sure you're solving a market problem that actually exists by validating the market. Also, for those of you in the ecosystem who help entrepreneurs, be honest. When you hear somebody working on something where, you don't think that they have done their homework, tell them. But also introduce them to people that they can talk to that will help them understand that, what problem they're solving for whom and why it matters. Of course, there are tons of documented ways of validating your market, from surveys to one-on-one interviews. And I'm not going to get into the details of how to do it. But what I will tell you is do not skip this step. I see a lot of people doing it, and they go straight to building something that ultimately nobody wants or needs. Because my time is short, I'll end my lessons learned here. I really want to thank you for your time and attention. I also want to offer up my contact information so you can feel free to contact me at any time. I am here as part of the MIT Enterprise Forum family. We are here to help each other succeed, and if I can do that for any one of you listening in the audience, please reach out. Thank you so much for your time.
According to a report published a few years ago, it's been estimated that MIT alumni have launched more than 30,000 active companies, employing around 4.6 million people and generating roughly $1.9 trillion in annual revenues. Professor Edward Roberts, founder and chair of the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship, will shed some light on how MIT promotes and nurtures entrepreneurs who build great companies.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm delighted to join you here remotely. I'm going to talk briefly about the MIT entrepreneurship activities and give you some examples of the type of impact that we have had locally at MIT, in the area of Cambridge and Massachusetts and the United States, and then finally more broadly around the entire world. The bigger picture than what I'm going to discuss today is contained in the book that has just been published by Amazon this past year. You can see it. There it is. You can see it, Celebrating Entrepreneurship, how MIT nurtured, here it is, how MIT nurtured pioneering entrepreneurs who built great companies. Difficult to figure out how to balance that while we're on Zoom. So what I'd like to do is start with the history. The history of MIT, in a way, in entrepreneurship is a continuation after 100 years of the history of MIT itself. It was started in 1861 by a gentleman named William Barton Rogers, who believed in taking knowledge and applying it to real work. And because of budgetary problems, he announced to his faculty that it would be a very good idea if they would find 1 day a week of consulting work outside. The consulting work outside gradually turned into consulting companies, and the consulting companies gradually turned into product-oriented companies over a period of 100 years, essentially. So we come up to 1963. And in 1963, many MIT alumni had started companies, but nothing was going on at MIT except for one small seminar course called New Enterprises, started by an alumnus of MIT who had been successful. And the course was a course in which basically he and his friends talked about how they had become wealthy by becoming entrepreneurs. There were no fundamental underlying principles. There was experience only that was shared. In 1963, somewhat by accident, I got involved in beginning what turns out to be the first research program in the world on studying technology-based new enterprises. And that started, sponsored by the MIT Aerospace Research Center that was NASA-sponsored, and I was at the time associate director of the also NASA-sponsored Organization Research Center. So we had two centers sponsoring my studies of spin-off companies from MIT laboratories. And I began by studying the major labs, Instrumentation Lab, the Lincoln Lab, the other major laboratories. Then I studied the faculty who had spun off to set up new companies. They hadn't actually left for the most part. Very few faculty have ever left to form companies. They've stayed on as faculty, started the companies on the side. And then I began to study outside organizations. I studied government laboratories in the Boston area. And then I managed to persuade two very large corporations to permit me to enter and to attempt to discover which people had left their organization to set up new companies. So this was the beginning of the research program from '63 during the next several years. And over time, I continued carrying out research on entrepreneurship with my research assistants and my graduate thesis students from across all of MIT. And we studied probably 40 to 50 individual studies that covered every aspect of entrepreneurship. We looked at the founders, the funding, the initial product development activities, the market development, the growth strategies, the problems, you name it, we looked at it during a period of time and collected data. The data were collected primarily by face-to-face interviews with the founders of these companies themselves. Within a year or so, we had a very clearly structured interview panel to cover all of the details so that we could collect consistent data for analysis. We also did a lot of studies of venture capitalists. We studied their decision processes. We studied what they turned down and what they approved, especially in the area of technology and innovation-based new companies. So this was a very comprehensive series of studies that I was doing by myself. There was no other faculty member at MIT that was engaged in this kind of research. And frankly, there weren't a lot of people who were encouraging the research. Several people who were my bosses in one way or another would say to me, Ed, why do you want to waste your time studying these kinds of people, namely entrepreneurs? And I would laugh and say, well, I enjoy examining them and learning more about them. And in addition, of course, I did a lot of other studies of research and development and innovation and other things, so that after a while, I got tenure quite early. And so once I was a full professor, in a way, frankly, I didn't care very much about what my elders thought. I was free to do things the way I thought I wanted to do. And I continued working on entrepreneurship. Now, I began to have companions, but my companions weren't faculty. My companions were alumni. Because of the fact that the job of an assistant professor, 1963, me, the job of assistant professor is to promulgate his work. I gave seminars, I wrote papers, I talked at various MIT, I talked at engineering society meetings and the like, and gradually built up an audience that was very interested in what I was learning about entrepreneurship. In 1969, seven of us got together, young alumni, and we decided it would be a great idea to spread the word to others. So we started a seminar program called How to Start Your Own Company. And it took a year to persuade the MIT Alumni Association to allow us to go ahead under their sponsorship. Our target was if we could recruit 30 MIT alumni to attend a weekend seminar, then we would have proven that this is worthwhile for the Alumni Association to establish an interest group in how to start your own company. Well, in a matter of weeks after sending out invitations to the seminar that we were organizing, we had to shut off acceptances at 250 people who had applied. We promised we would have another seminar 6 months later. We conducted the seminar for 250 people in MIT's biggest auditorium, the Kresge Auditorium, and it was a very successful seminar. Suddenly, the alumni organization decided that this was a good thing, and we established ourselves as a nationwide organization group. And over the next 3 years, we offered the similar seminar in 8 different cities through MIT alumni associations, and we addressed 3,500 MIT alumni during this 3-year period of time. Well, the first thing that happened once this was done was that the individual alumni clubs in different cities across the United States began to think, what could they do as follow-on? The New York Alumni Club started the New York Venture Clinic. And the New York Venture Clinic took early stage MIT alumni entrepreneurs and set up panels to give them advice and help and an audience to talk to test out their ideas. 2 years later, quite relevant to you, we started the MIT Enterprise Forum of Cambridge, the first with that name. A year later, the New York group decided they liked our name better. So the New York group became the MIT Enterprise Forum of New York. And suddenly we organized a overseeing committee of alumni to help to grow MIT Enterprise Forums all over the world. And at our peak, we have had 26 chapters of MIT Enterprise Forums, including what you now have in Saudi Arabia and in United Arab Emirates. So we have gone through the world with the MIT Enterprise Forum. That was an important step because now a lot more people at MIT and outside of MIT were talking about entrepreneurship, but still only the research was continuing under me. In 1991, I went to the dean with a very big proposal that we create an MIT-wide entrepreneurship center. The dean said to me, and the dean was a friend, but the dean said to me, Ed, why do you want to waste your time on these kinds of people? And I said, you mean entrepreneurs? And he said, well, yeah, you've got other things you could be doing. And I laughed and I said, well, I'm enjoying it, and I think there's a lot of other people who think that they would benefit if we were doing more teaching, more education, more research, helping more student activities in the area of entrepreneurship. And he said, Ed, who besides you thinks this is a good idea? I got out of my chair, I picked up my proposal from his desk, and I turned around and I said, I'll see you again, and I walked out of his office. A month later, I came back to the dean. I walked in for my appointment. I tossed the proposal on his desk and I said, don't bother rereading it. It's the same proposal. Just gently turn it over to the last page. And he looked at me skeptically, turned over the proposal, and the last page was now an added page. It was a signature page. And on the signature page was the signature of the head of every group in the Sloan School. The head of marketing, the head of finance, the head of organization behavior, the head of applied economics, the head of every group in the school had signed off on the proposal, and the dean looked at the sheet, looked at me, and said, okay, Ed, what do we do now? And I said, I love the we. And there we now were legitimate as starting what we call the MIT Entrepreneurship Center. Now notice, it wasn't the MIT Sloan School Entrepreneurship Center, it was the MIT Entrepreneurship Center. Why? Because as far as I was concerned, the message that we wanted to communicate was that all of MIT had interests in entrepreneurship, and our research had already demonstrated that the largest group of entrepreneurs from MIT, in fact, came from the engineering school, which is the largest school at MIT by far. So we wanted to be encompassing the whole of MIT, and that was our initial charter. It was okay to do it. Well, from 1991 on, I started to be able to hire faculty, to begin to expand our teaching program and the like, so that today we have a very significant entrepreneurship faculty at MIT. And instead of the one course that we had in 1963 when I started my research, today we have 65 courses all across MIT, not just in the management school, but some in the engineering school as well, being taught by engineering faculty, frequently in collaboration with management school faculty. So we've been able to even be running classes in which the collaboration is a cross-school collaboration. And where in 1963, there were approximately a dozen or 15 students attending this one seminar, today we take about 1,000 student seats a year of students enrolling in various of the many entrepreneurship classes. And we've been carrying out the research very broadly. And indeed, we created a PhD program in entrepreneurship, and we have already had 40 MIT PhD graduates who are now faculty all over the world, teaching what I'll call our brand of entrepreneurship, that is with focus primarily upon innovation and technology-based companies. So we started in 1991, and nothing else happened at MIT besides our starting our program and hiring faculty and beginning until 10 years later. In the year 2000, the next MIT organization in entrepreneurship started, and it is the Venture Mentoring Service. And the Venture Mentoring Service was started explicitly to provide advice and counsel to existing companies, startup ideas by students, by alumni, by grad students as undergraduate students, all were acceptable. And the people were unpaid, mostly alumni advisors, trying to help in the startup and early stage growth processes. This center was started collaboratively with the MIT Entrepreneurship Center. We were, in a way, the only game in town relating to research and education. They didn't want to duplicate our function. They wanted to now take people who had ideas in companies and begin to give them advice. So from 1963, when it was a terrible thing for a faculty member to start a company, to the current year, when it's a great idea if young faculty are being encouraged to start a company, we have altered the culture. I'll give you one more piece of evidence. In the back cover of this book, I quote the present president of MIT, Raphael Reif, and he says, "An entrepreneurship tornado continues to blow at MIT. The energy of entrepreneurship rises through our classrooms, labs, and centers. It has been central to who we are as an institution for 50 years of extraordinary service and achievement." So the culture of MIT is very different. Okay, let's talk about the impact we've had on the region. In the most recent research that we have done studying all MIT alumni who've become entrepreneurs, we tried to study all MIT alumni and just singled out the ones who became entrepreneurs. Looking at only the living companies by living entrepreneurs, leaving out those where the alumni have died, those where the company's been absorbed or closed down, those started by non-MIT alumni faculty, those started by non-MIT alumni staff, just alumni of MIT, still alive, with their company still alive, we found that in 2014, there were over 30,200 living MIT companies. Those 30,200 companies were employing at the time 4.6 million people worldwide. Their gross revenues were $2 trillion. In that year, $2 trillion was the same economic size as the 10th largest economy in the world. So this is old data. It hasn't been replicated more recently. 2014, MIT alumni in what they were doing entrepreneurially were equivalent to the 10th largest economy in the world. So this is a piece of impact economically on a global basis. So my advice to you is that you too can do the same thing. How do you do it? Number one, you had better have a very high motivation. You better be wanting to accomplish something of significance to be able to accomplish something of significance. Why? Because the typical company to grow to greatness is going to require a decade long. Something shorter than that can happen. Kiva Systems, which was sold to Amazon to take over all the robotics needed in Amazon shipping. Kiva Systems came out of MIT Mechanical Engineering Group, and in which Mick Mounce brought in all of his fraternity brothers to be early staff of his company. It was only about 4 years old when Amazon bought it. Or PillPack, which came out of the Sloan School to do basically automation of pharmaceutical deliveries of drugs to the home and the like. That was bought by Amazon as well. Amazon likes MIT-based pioneering companies. PillPack was bought. PillPack was only 2 years old when it was bought. But typically, especially if you're going to be there and build your firm, it's going to take you 8 to 10 years or even longer. So that's the second thing you need to take into account. You need persistence. You need to be willing to go and last that long on the same mission. There may be pivots in the mission, but it's the same fundamental mission. If you don't have the personality and the commitment to have this persistence, then I'm not talking about you becoming a pioneering entrepreneur. You may very well be able to start a company. It may be a good company. It may go fine, but do it the easy way. Do a Me Too company, or do a company that has a relatively small advance in it and the like. If you want to pioneer something really dramatic and really new, you better be persistent. To be persistent, you can't do it alone. Our data are very clear. People who are co-founded by two people dramatically outperform solo entrepreneurs. 3 co-founders do considerably better than 2 co-founders. All of those statements that I'm making are statistically significant statements. Now I'll make one more statement. If you have 4 co-founders, the trend is you'll do even better than 3, but the numbers of 4 co-founder companies is too small for me to say that's a statistically significant finding. So this is important. The other thing you should know is that if you combine in your co-founders, if you combine someone with technical skills with those with management skills, and in particular with marketing or salesmanship skills, you have the highest likelihood of being successful. And the final comment I'll make for those of you who may be looking elsewhere for money is don't accept money only for the sake of the money. Take money from those who are going to provide the kind of support and help and advice and encouragement that you are going to need to be successful over the life of your firm, and seek dramatic advance, not just incremental change. I wish all of you good luck. Thank you very much.
I am very pleased to introduce a dear friend, Dr. Phil Budman, who is a senior lecturer at MIT Sloan, a key faculty member of MIT REAP, Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program, and a diplomat. It's worth noting that a number of Saudi regions have participated in MIT REAP to build and further accelerate the growth of the regional entrepreneurship ecosystems, namely Mecca, Medina, and Hail regions. And hopefully, a number of other Saudi regions will be participating in MIT REAP over the course of the next few years. Phil will be speaking on a very important topic, innovation ecosystems, especially the importance and dynamics of stakeholder engagement in driving and catalyzing such ecosystems.
Hello, my name is Dr. Phil Budden, and I'm beaming into you from MIT today, thanks to the powers of communications and information technology. I am delighted to be joining you for this MIT Enterprise Forum in Saudi Arabia. Let me just say, Assalamu alaikum. I am sorry we cannot be together in person, but I am delighted that through the Enterprise Forum, we are still getting together, even if it is virtually. I'm delighted to be speaking today to this StartSmart Conference. I know you have a variety of wonderful speakers. You'll have heard from my good friend Osama Ashri already, whom I know through MIT REAP and his great work in the Western region of Saudi Arabia. You'll also have heard from Professor Roberts, who is a founder of the REAP program, which I will be talking about today. And later you will hear from Bill Olette, who runs the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship and is also a co-founder of REAP. My topic today is innovation ecosystems. Now, I know you're there at a Smart Start conference for entrepreneurs, but your subtitle is Enable Today and Transform Tomorrow. And my message about innovation ecosystems is that while entrepreneurship is very important to get started, including with your startup, the long-term success of startup entrepreneurship around the world is usually informed by the context in which it happens. And that is what we at MIT call the innovation ecosystem. Entrepreneurs are everywhere in the world. They have lots of good ideas for startups, but the places where they do best and where their startups grow and scale up are those where they are embedded in ecosystems which help them take forward this innovation. So I'm delighted to get to talk about this topic today in this very important conference. One of the first things I want to talk about is how important it is to kickstart entrepreneurship. This is a non-trivial challenge, and hats off to you and all of the people who've applied to be entrepreneurs and take forward their startups. This takes real courage, and entrepreneurs are hugely important to innovation ecosystems. I have behind me here a graphic that I often have up of our innovation ecosystem. And as you will see, we always put the entrepreneur at the top of the circle. As you can see here, she is at the top. She is leading an entrepreneurial team, and they are very important to the ecosystem. Without the entrepreneurs willing to take the risks, work day and night to make progress on these, and put up with the very real chance that their startups will not succeed, we would not have entrepreneurial ecosystems. But we also know from the REAP program that Professor Roberts and Professor Olette set up that there are in fact 5 stakeholders in the ecosystems of the world that do best. And as you can see from this graphic here, the 5 are the entrepreneur, of course, the university, the government and the corporate stakeholders, the traditional triple helix, as so often written about in international political economy, plus a 5th one that we add, namely risk capital, a category that's much bigger than venture capital and is the entire category of those who provide funding for ventures, whether they be venture capitalists or those providing risk capital out of the government, the university, or the corporate stakeholders. So the innovation ecosystem model has all 5 stakeholders. We put the entrepreneur at the top because they are the ones that make the real difference. But we also know that today's entrepreneurs will only be able to be transformative tomorrow if they are embedded in an ecosystem that supports them. Because entrepreneurs, if they don't find what they need from the other stakeholders in their local ecosystem, will move elsewhere. And as we discovered before the COVID crisis, an awful lot of them were moving to Silicon Valley and San Francisco next door for the best opportunities. I'll come back to how COVID may be changing things, but I just want to underscore the role of all 5 stakeholders and the fact that you need partners. I'm therefore delighted when I look at the invitation for today's event to see so many wonderful partners. I see Monshat is in there, Invest, Saudi, and especially the Ministry for Communications and Information Technology. That really is a key part of government to enable the innovation ecosystem. I know from my work with Osama and REAP teams across Saudi Arabia just how well the Saudi regime is working to encourage entrepreneurship and the innovation ecosystems in which it can thrive. So I'm sorry not to be there in person. It would be wonderful to see these events myself, but I will have to wait until after the pandemic, and then I look forward to coming to visit the various entrepreneurs that you have there in Saudi Arabia. I'm very impressed with the ones I have met. Now, for the other stakeholders who may be listening to today, whether that's government, corporate, university, or risk capital, while the entrepreneur is the one who takes the headline risk, it's really important that the other ecosystem players understand their role in the ecosystem to support the entrepreneur. Otherwise, the entrepreneurs, particularly in digitally focused areas, are likely to move to other areas. So while there is much burden on the entrepreneur, there's also a responsibility for the other ecosystem players to take an ecosystem perspective to support the entrepreneur, to listen to what it is the entrepreneurs need to be able to stay and succeed where they are. And also, this will lead to changes in the other stakeholders. There's nothing like working with entrepreneurs to make you realize that our own organizations need to become more entrepreneurial. Now, I said I was going to talk about the COVID pandemic because I think it's wonderful that we're meeting during this particular crisis in spite of the pandemic, because innovation and technology will not stand still. In fact, entrepreneurs are very good at spotting the opportunities in the disruption that has come from this pandemic, and will find ways to actually take forward enterprises that harness digital technologies to actually make our lives better through the tail end of the pandemic and through the recovery that must come in the 2020s. Turning to that recovery, I think one of the things that's different this time around from 10 years ago when we emerged from the Great Recession is that we have discovered through the pandemic how much we can do remotely, particularly with digital technologies. And I think this will change the distribution of entrepreneurial ecosystems around the world. I think it means that entrepreneurs no longer need to go to the great world's hotspots like Silicon Valley. I think they can actually stay closer to home if they so choose and be very entrepreneurial and effective and innovative right there if the ecosystem is welcoming of that. And I think that's particularly important as we look out at this coming decade, the 2020s, which will take us to 2030, and the vision we all have for 2030. How do we keep these homegrown entrepreneurs and these footloose international ones where they can actually do good for our local regions, whether we're focusing on the western region of Saudi Arabia, NEOM, or the wider Red Sea area? It's important to think about how to keep these digital entrepreneurs closer to home. I think there's also great opportunity coming out of this disruption. The desire to live in downtown San Francisco, I think, is going to be more limited, as it will with Boston and London and a variety of other cities. I think the entrepreneurs are going to distribute themselves more evenly around the world in ecosystems that are welcoming. So I think now it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs in Saudi Arabia and those who support the growth of innovation ecosystems in that kingdom to actually win a greater share of global entrepreneurship and innovation if they follow the right paths. Now, this doesn't apply to all startups. It is much more the digital ones, those that are involved in deep tech, for example, coming up with the COVID vaccine or solar panels or tokamak reactors for fusion energy, are much less likely to move. But the digitally focused ones can be much more footloose. And with the good communications and information technology infrastructure and policies that Saudi Arabia has, there is a good opportunity for it to become a real center in the region. And by region here, I probably mean the entire Middle East, North African region. I think we're going to see the rise of a variety of new centers for such digital entrepreneurship, enabled by such infrastructure and policies. And I think this is to the good of the region, finding ways to bring those different ecosystem players together. Now, as I start to wrap up, I wish you well for the rest of the competition. This is a great way to bring alive an entrepreneurial ecosystem is through startup competitions. And yet the tricky phase is how to keep those startups going. They need more nutrients and support from the wider ecosystem than they're just going to get from such a competition. So I wish the startup entrepreneurs well. I wish the other ecosystem stakeholders all the best for supporting the innovation ecosystem and the regions that they care about. I think the disruption from the COVID pandemic and the coming recovery are a great time to take a very thoughtful approach to all these things. And I would just conclude by pointing out that Zoom, which I am using today, was founded in the teeth of the last recession in 2010. As was Moderna, the local Cambridge, Massachusetts company that's giving us one of the vaccines. And so, oddly enough, for entrepreneurs, the disruption that comes from a crisis like this is actually a great opportunity to create the companies that in 10 years' time will seem like overnight successes, the likes of Zoom, the likes of Moderna. And so with that, let me wish you well. I look forward to meeting you properly in the coming decade, and I wish you well with your startup companies. With that, thank you very much and farewell from Dr. Phil in MIT.
Visible successes can ignite entrepreneurship by inspiring others to start their own businesses. Let's get inspired by the story of Ahmed, founder and CEO of Quant Data and Analytics.
Hello everyone, my name is Ahmed Bouhamsine, co-founder and CEO of Quant, a Saudi-based consultancy and product house dedicated in the field of data science and AI. I would like to start by thanking MITEF Saudi for having me as a speaker at the StartSmart Conference. I am very honored and thrilled to be part of this event. Our story started after I graduated from KPUBM in 2013 with an actuarial science and financial mathematics degree. And I was working back in that time in an actuarial consultancy firm with a great mentor named Ron. And during 2015, I started noticing that data science has a larger impact in the business world than actuarial science, since its limited application to the insurance industry. And that when I realized the potential in starting a company that focused only on providing data science expertise who served the region local needs. I had to make a difficult decision to leave my job and start Quant with my friend and colleague Tariq Abdel Jalil, who is now leading Fruits 360. It was a big risk at that time, but I was hopeful and determined to see it through. Tariq and I founded Quant in Khobar with the support of WAAD, Aramco Entrepreneurship Center. They gave us an office in KPUBM campus as a part of the startup lab, and through their support and our determination, we turned our hopes into reality. After first client, we moved the company to Riyadh and get closer to the center of the economy. That when we got incubated by Badr and get exposed to such an active entrepreneurship ecosystem and amazing network and founder. We learned a lot from them, and we were able to land our first major account and signed a huge partnership agreement with the market leading technology in data science and big data, where we develop intelligent data science and business intelligence solution to provide to our clientele in form of both services and product. When we first started in our journey, we felt there was a lack of awareness in data science application in the region and also shortage of such talent. And we wanted to give back to our community, so we co-founded Riyadh Data Geeks, now called Saudi Data Community, which helped us in building a network of over than 5,000 members, now is considered the largest big data community in the GCC region, where it enables us with the best possible talent hub to hire from and also provide great exposure for our company. Our journey was challenging, leaving our stable job to start our own business that was considered new in the local market here in Saudi. Moving from Khobar to Riyadh, moving between 8 offices throughout the years, limitation in budget and capital until we settled in our headquarters. But we are thankful to be an ambitious nation with a vibrant entrepreneurship ecosystem that welcomed us with an open arm and enabled us from our incubator, investor, clients, and partner. We wouldn't be here today without this continuous support. Today, Quant has a passionate team of data scientists, actuaries, statisticians, software and big data engineers who have analyzed trillions of data records for numerous clients across different sectors with experience in fintech, healthcare, insurance, real estate, and logistics, among many others. We have also ventured into product development. 2019 saw the launch of Quant first product, Fruits 360, a business intelligence and analytics as a service product, targeted the retail and food and beverage sector, which won first place last year in the startup track for MITEF Saudi competition. Fruits help business owner to monitor their sales, operation, customer behavior, and much more data sources, providing them with a 360-degree perspective, which enable them to gain the best fruits from their business as much as possible. Currently, we have more than 400 outlets subscribe with us in KSA and have expanded to Kuwait market with 20 outlets. And the main goal for Fruits 360, focusing on optimizing and simplifying the decision-making process. And our future goal, including the expansion of Fruits to other vertical like e-commerce and more into the retail sector. And on August 23rd, 2020, when the Northern Star was visible in Riyadh sky, we launched our second product, Suhail. And as the Northern Star was used by travelers to navigate their path, Suhail was launched to also help navigate decision maker in the real estate sector. Suhail today is the largest real estate data hub in Saudi Arabia, which provide advanced data analytics and location intelligence with an ambitious goal to enable user with accessibility to data for all the stakeholders in the real estate sector. We pride ourselves in Quant on being a dynamic, agile, and result-oriented company that has a local outlook while upholding global standard. Now, looking back, I think my decision to leave my company and start Quant was one of the best decisions of my life. I truly believe that that if you are passionate and you work hard enough, that success is only a matter of time. I must say that the theme of today's conference, Enabling Today, Transforming Tomorrow, resonate with me personally, as our mission statement in Quant is to pursue a data-driven economy, which is the tomorrow we hope to make happen. This can only be achieved by enabling today, which is now made easier than ever thanks to the ambitious Vision 2030, which led to the establishment of the Saudi Data and AI Authority, whose mission is to unlock the value of the data as a national asset to realize Vision 2030 aspiration, which became very tangible in the form of the recently established National Strategy for Data and AI, and overseeing its execution through data policy, data analysis, and insight capability, and continuous data and AI innovation. And definitely having a regulator in the data science industry will increase the market size from having more regulation and policy requirement, will encourage government entity and private sector for more of data utilization. And we were both proud and joyful to take part in this transformative journey where our government implement more robust data science utilization in policymaking process. As we have seen with the Real Estate Development Fund, where we created a recommendation engine that obtains beneficiary data and generate bank mortgage recommendation. This reduced the journey time required from Saudi citizen from a proper loan option from a month of numerous bank visits to an instant click, resulting in a more rapid achievement of one of Vision 2030 key strategic goal, which is increasing the percentage of Saudi homeowner to the targeted KPI set for 2020. And alhamdulillah, this KPI was achieved through the collaborative efforts of government entity concerned with the housing sector. And in 2020, there was no doubt that data is vital to the development of any economy. There were many examples where saw this, but most clearly was in the outbreak of COVID-19. And numerous use cases where powerful data analytics and business intelligence was required. We are proud to have aided with Ministry of Health in 2020 by serving the Qasim healthcare cluster, where our team was helping them to combat the spread of the virus, which is extremely unpredictable. We did this by leveraging the capability of network analysis to build contact tracing analytics engine, allowing the healthcare facility in Qasim to plan one step ahead of the virus, controlling its spread, and to better manage ICU bed utilization within the hospital. The analysis and visualization we created for this initiative are currently being shared with local hospital and infection control specialists and other organizations within the Qasim region. When I think about the future, I see Quant being a hub establishing data-driven solution and product that address local needs and challenges. We have already started to achieve that with Suhail and Fruits 360, and we plan to expand them locally, regionally, and internationally. At Quant, we value constant growth, collaboration, and agility. Following these values, we utilize data science in enhancing decision-making by leveraging local and international expertise and strategic partnership. Quant strive to explore the infinite possibility of data to improve the national quality of life. This is only the beginning. Thank you for your time and wish the best of luck for our fellow entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Welcome to our panel. Our panel will be today on the impact of fintech on MENA economies. And let me please introduce you to our distinguished panelists one by one about their backgrounds. So first of all, my name is Nilüfer Günhan, and I am the Chief Financial Services Officer responsible for financial services and fintech areas in Abdulatif Jamil Group. And our first panelist is Mr. Nezar Al-Haidar. Nezar is the FinTech Hub Manager in FinTech Saudi. He actually has a vast experience in startups, in entrepreneurship, and also the SME segments. And I think he's very passionate about startups. And he also has a Master of Business Administration degree with the emphasis in entrepreneurship. Our second panelist is Mr. Mark Shahwan. Mark is the co-founder and CEO of Sarwa. Sarwa is one of the financial advisory platforms, robo-advisory platforms based in UAE, and also recently entered Saudi market. And Mark, despite his young age, has been very passionate about wealth management. He has experience in the banking sector, investment banking, and he's a graduate of McGill University, Canada. And also he has been recognized in the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Our third panelist is Mohammed Jawabri. Mohammed is the co-founder and COO of Lendo. Mohammed is a computer engineer, so he has built Lendo's infrastructure very successfully. Lendo is a crowdfunding platform in Saudi Arabia. And Mohammed has actually served in many technical projects in his past, and also served as a consultant at the Riyadh Chamber of Commerce as well. And he is also a PMP certified from PMI. And our final panelist is Talal Damen. Talal is working as an investment team member, senior associate at STB. STB is a technology venture capital fund, and Talal also is experienced in his past for 9 years in M&A activities. And he is also a graduate of Richard Ivey School of Business, University of Western Ontario. So having found a very strong panel that come from different angles of the fintech ecosystem, we would like to start about the fintech's importance under Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia, being a very important pillar for the diversification of the economy. As fintechs, the whole ecosystem has done very well in 2020 despite a very difficult time, especially in serving the SME segment, in building the resilience for the SMEs, and also helping the consumers and the public live these difficult times without difficulty, thanks to the offers and the solutions and the innovations that many fintechs brought to the ecosystem and help the SMEs. So this will be one of our subjects, and we will be discussing how, as the fintech ecosystem, we have helped the SME sector. And secondly, we will discuss about open banking. It's a very exciting news that SAMA has announced the arrival of open banking to come in 2022. And we will be discussing the effects and how fintechs will benefit from this, and also reflecting this benefit to the consumers and SMEs. And of course, we will also discuss a little bit on the financial awareness of the consumers and SMEs, as there are so many innovations now coming in Saudi Arabia, being such an important ecosystem in the globe. And we will be discussing about how the fintechs, these ecosystem players and the venture capital companies as well, are serving to create more financial awareness for the users of this ecosystem. So I welcome all of you and start the panel. As you all know, we've been discussing fintech, as you know, in this ecosystem for a couple of years now. And we see that Saudi Arabia has actually progressed very well during these years and under the supervision of SAMA and CMA. And actually, Riyadh has now become one of the top names in the fintech ecosystem after Silicon Valley, New York, and London. And also, in one of the World Economic Forum reports I have recently seen about global competitiveness in 2020, we also see Saudi Arabia being one of the top 10 countries with the highest digital skills. And I think this is an amazing development. Although 2020 was really a difficult year for all of us as human beings and also as businesses and fintechs, we saw that in Saudi Arabia, the picture in the fintech area was a little bit different. It was a striking year for funding rounds, and there was a record growth in the number of funding deals. And this really shows us that Saudi Arabia will probably become number one in the number of fintech deals in the region, maybe followed by UAE and other countries. But of course, the most important pillar, being the most important pillar under Vision 2030, I think we should discuss as the panel around the SMEs, because the SME resilience is really critical for the diversification of the kingdom's economy. And therefore, I would like to ask the panel's opinions around the subject, especially how you guys helped the resilience of SMEs. What were your experiences from 2020 and your plans in 2021? And I'd like to start with FinTech Saudi side. Mr. Nazar, could you please tell us what you have done for the fintechs and the SMEs adaptation to the fintech in 2020?
So to confirm what you were saying, we've been witnessing only, alhamdulillah, growth in that sector when it comes to the transactions or the investments in all of the aspects when it comes to the industry itself. In fact, if you see when it comes to the investment, the fintech pillar when it comes to startups is, taking the lion's share. And also, it's only when it comes to the last quarter specifically of 2020, fintech and e-commerce was, the main deals happened in that. So when it comes to also the transactions that were recorded in 2020, they were over 6 billion in value. So the fintech solutions and how the SMEs are using them, I can touch on that by saying basically, 2020 was a tough year, but also you can see that a lot of the fintech solutions that we have in the market, they're targeted or tailored towards SMEs or SMEs needs. So we have about 14 fintechs in Saudi market when it comes to lending, and they've served over 3,000 SMEs specifically. So it's divided, as between debt and equity crowdfunding platforms, and these startups or these fintechs helped creating new channels for these SMEs that did not exist at some point, because a lot of SMEs, they would need a balance sheet to get the funding that they need. But fintechs came to the equation and basically changed the tools and the channels that these SMEs can acquire the capital or the liquidity that they are need to basically expedite their growth or their operation within their operation. So alhamdulillah, it's only we're witnessing only growth, and that's basically a result of where the country is heading and what are we trying to do to in fintech Saudi to basically raise this awareness and being more of a glue, or the organization that helps navigate the ecosystem.
Wonderful. I also remember that you were checking upon the SMEs adoption of the fintechs by means of surveys. How did those surveys, did the results come out yet?
Not yet. So what we did is a monumental thing, because it's the first time a national survey been launched to basically assist how SMEs are adapting these technologies, these great solutions that we have. So when it comes to SMEs specifically, if you take, for example, one of the businesses, restaurants, for example, 100% if they use a POS that is a fintech solution, a Saudi-based fintech solution, and how they process their payment by a fintech-based Saudi solution as well. So it was interesting to us to know what are the other solutions that they are adopting. For example, how they're doing their accounting. If they need cash, what are they doing to do that? How they are utilizing these technologies. So it's going to be interesting because we're still gathering the information, and I'm sure that we're going to share the information with the ecosystem, because this is what we are basically trying to do to increase the knowledge, to share the information that SMEs, fintechs, and banks are looking to find out, these information.
Marvelous. We're looking forward to the results. So you talked about lending and crowdfunding. So I'd like to ask now Mohammed, because as Lendo, they are new, but although they entered the ecosystem recently, they had the chance to fund many SMEs and answer their needs for cash flow. So Mohammed, tell us about your experience.
Thank you, Noliver. So what we had 2020 year was like amazing. We had like a huge growth, but because that we have like the COVID-19 situation, it might affect us positively in some aspects. Like we had a spike number of registered investors due to the drop of unpredictable performance on the stock market. So this investor was looking for some alternative asset class to invest in, and this was in our favor. We had a lot of investors registered in Lendo. On the same side, although we have got a lot of registered SME applying for loans, due to the same situation, we had to adapt our credit model so we can support them in a better way without putting our investor in any risk. Yeah. So in 2020 we did we have deployed more than 50 million riyal for SMEs and funds, and we helped more than 50 companies. We have published more than 100 investment opportunity. So yes, although we had a lot of restriction, we had a lot of special situation because we are under the sandbox, but we did the great numbers, alhamdulillah.
Let me now ask the question to Talal from STV, because they are a technology investment venture capital fund. And we mentioned that during 2020, Mr. Nazar mentioned e-commerce was also one of the areas that was highly funded, because SMEs also wanted to get on those platforms to be able to sell to their restaurants, because none of us could go to a restaurant or a retail shop, so we started to shop online. So please tell us how you helped the SME segment, how you supported their resilience as a venture capital fund.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'll take it a step back just to talk about just fintech in general from our perspective. I mean, you all, of course, have it from an SME perspective, but you also have it from the consumer perspective. And for us as investors, we looked at fintech as a space that would enable to connect both SMEs with consumer and SMEs with other potential SMEs, and the same way consumer with other SMEs. So in terms of our investment over the past, I would say 4 months, I mean, we've invested in a fintech called Tabi, which is the buy now, pay later, that allows customers to get the financing to be able to acquire product and so forth. And this product could be sold by SMEs. So that's kind of, we're trying to enable both connectivity between them. But specifically on SMEs, I mean, we have invested in, similar to what Nizar's mentioned, in a POS, cloud POS in Saudi called Foodex. And they are enabling or digitizing the entire POS service, reducing costs, allowing SMEs to have more savings. And now, even through the Foodex POS, we're going to be providing them with financing as well, because once you have the data and once you're able to recognize what's their cash flow and what's their receivables, you'll be able to kind of optimize their cash flow process. And I think from our perspective, in terms of fintech, it's always about how much data there is and how could you digitize paperwork to a data that you could then utilize and do some sort of artificial intelligence to better utilize it, whether that is in terms of analyzing the credit risk of a customer or a credit risk of an SME, and to providing the financing that would allow them to grow. So I think from our perspective, we're always looking into, in terms of what we would invest in, it's always going to be, first of all, how are we helping the SMEs? So in terms of financing, how could we allow it to grow further? Of course, in a risk-adjusted basis, because every company could grow, but you always want it to grow in a right way or more of a staggered way. So for us, it's always about the data. How could you optimize the data to make it the most efficient way? And similar to what Mohammed mentioned in terms of Lendo, the credit scoring is something important, and that is something that will be utilized through data. And in any other industry, specifically in fintech, there's always the credit risk within it. The data is going to play from our end, which we believe is going to play an important part in either allowing this whole progress to continue going forward once the right data is there, or at least edit the data and the way you observe the data and the way you analyze data in order to enhance the return and reduce the risks. And I think that's how we would look at it from our perspective.
Absolutely. I think venture capital side really is very precious for this ecosystem, because you also help with job creation as you fund those startups and the SMEs and the fintech sector. You allow more job creation and more resistance to this sector. So we need you highly in 2020.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely. It's not even only about the job creation. Of course, that's a big portion of it. But at the same time, it's allowing SMEs to do something. It's allowing consumer to access something that wasn't available beforehand, whether it's from financing, whether it's allowing access to capital, or even access to information. So I think the whole ecosystem is something that we're proud of to assist in any possible manner.
Absolutely.
Actually, in Oliver, we were doing like a kind of survey and report about like 2020, like how many job we have saved, like because when we financed our companies and we got very interesting number, like there were like 2,500 jobs that we have saved through our financing, because most of the money was going for salaries.
That's really amazing. So the whole ecosystem is actually supporting the economy so strongly, because at the beginning of this COVID story in March, I think we were all, panicked a little bit. What will happen? And many of us were worried about the health of the ecosystem, fintech ecosystem. Who will fund them? How will this go? And all these technology, how will they support these startups? But then it's amazingly, actually me as a consumer, I never lived a problem. I could still shop online from the small grocery shop or my restaurant, which didn't have any, online facility before COVID. So the adaptation was so quick, but I think it was all thanks to, the approach of the SMEs and the support of venture capital and the fintechs all together. This brought so much, such a strong synergy, I think. And I'd like to also ask Mark, because I think he also, being a robo-advisory, investment robo-advisory platform, still, I think Sarva also supported the SME segment with their facilities. So Mark, what did you do in Sarva?
Yeah, thanks for the great question. I would say on our end, we're very consumer focused, first of all. That being said, as you were saying, March was a scary time for a lot of people, and we were all at home. We're logging into for those of us that are invested, we're logging into our dashboards maybe a bit too much. For those that aren't invested, they were thinking about it a lot. So approaching money head on was really key. So our way of giving back was mainly a lot of webinars, a lot of education, a lot of content. So we started having, sometimes we used to have like pizza nights at our office. We shifted that to having like 300, 400, 500 people, where we just went over the 4 rules of investing, the do's and don'ts, and just basic principles. So that really caught on, and we do that very regularly now. And we're seeing, a new like breed of employers that want to support their employees to get started with saving, with investing, whether it's a matching program or at least educating them on it. So yeah, we've been mainly consumer focused, but now I think SMEs are starting to play a role in the bigger, like the outside of work picture of their employees, which is really great to see, because we're catching up to some great practices in the West.
Wonderful. So we touched upon data and also trainings. I think these are very important subjects. As we all know, data is what we speak nowadays all the time, and everyone is obsessed about data. And so I'd like to ask yourselves about open banking, because we know that SAMA announced that in 2022 we will have the open banking regulation hopefully in place. And this will allow fintechs especially to access much more data, because with the consumer's approval, they will be able to access the bank account data, transactional data, and of the consumers, and they will be able to offer the consumers in one app a single financial management tool. And I would expect, you know better than me, but I would expect more innovation to come out of this open banking, because there will be probably data aggregators or, some super app models for helping the consumers. So what do you think about the open banking regulation? Maybe we could start again with FinTech Saudi and then continue with the rest of the panelists.
So that's a very exciting news, actually, because having open banking will give third-party fintechs access to information that they don't have access to, and I'm sure a lot of innovation will come along with these, with this change. We'll see some great, startups and some great fintechs that are innovating in ways or in innovative solutions that would help the consumers to basically analyze their data, help them spend better, or also suggest investment models that they're not aware of. Also help them with maybe their savings as well. And also one of the blessings is that having the open banking, maybe for some specific type of innovation, you don't have to go through the sandbox. You just go do your thing with the bank that you're working on. So that also will ease the process of a lot of fintechs getting into the industry. So that's definitely an exciting news.
Absolutely. Probably one day our mobile phone will tell us how to spend our money, where to go.
I'm sure, yeah.
Easy life. Then how about Mark? May I come back to you again, because data is also very important for your area as an investment platform. How do you think this will serve you for your purposes?
Yeah, no, I think this is that's huge, and in a few ways. The first point is it's going to remove a lot of friction to fund your account, as a very simple example where you don't need to leave the platform, or it becomes just much more integrated and easy to do things, which is really needed because that's where a lot of fintechs will go from their MVP, their first version, to a fully fledged version. In terms of data, I think it allows us, for example, as an investment platform, to just cover all aspects of someone's life, not just their long-term wealth. It could be their speculative investments, it could be their saving. As you said, there's the spending habits. We can start to just get to learn our customers a lot more. Because typically now the banks are really sitting on that, but the way they're set up, personally, I don't believe they're set up to take advantage of that. Versus startups, the way we were built makes it easy to build new products and recommend certain things that are more customized to the customer. So if we see someone who's more who's maybe using their credit card, for example, while still investing with us, we'll let them know that they should avoid doing that because the credit card interest will be higher than average market returns. So it just makes us a better partner in general when all of this is accessible.
Actually, 3 or 4 years ago, when I was attending some conferences in retail banking, I was hearing banks saying, yeah, there are fintechs, but they can never do our business. Now, as I listen to more webinars online now, I hear them saying we have allocated this much amount of investment for fintechs segment. So I think more and more the sector is getting excited, and I would think that synergies will really pay off.
I hope so. Yeah.
And so about Lendo, in the Lendo side, Mohammed, I guess this data will help you assess the SME segment much more easily, right, in terms of credit decisioning.
Yes, Nolibar. Actually, if I'm gonna talk about like the whole infrastructure. So having a very strong developed IT infrastructure for e-government and allowing us to access this data is a key pillar for the fintech ecosystem. So in Saudi Arabia, and this is something I have to give it to Saudi Arabia, we're able to do a KYC for our investor, for example, in just a second through identity verification service from an IC. And we also were doing a business verification and the credit assessment through the credit bureau here and through the MIC, Ministry of Commerce. So having an open banking solution will smooth the transaction, provide easy, amazing user experience. It will, for example, it will prevent the fraud. It will reduce the money laundering things. It will give us ability to get all the bank information, like the bank statements about this company, and do using machine learning and AI, we'll be able to take a decision in a second. We will give them like a pre-approved amount of loans, for example, in just a few seconds. So, and this is actually one of the challenges that we're having right now, that most of the SMEs here in Saudi Arabia, like the small companies, they don't have an audited financials. So we're relying on their bank statement to do the credit assessment. So it will be much easier for us to read this data and automate even the decision here.
Absolutely. Yeah, the SME data will be very, very significantly be a game changer, I think.
We're dying for this. We can't wait. We can't wait to.
Yes, absolutely. So, Talal, maybe you can also tell us with open banking, do you expect new innovations and new startups, technological startups coming for you to invest in?
I mean, to be honest, if I look at it, I mean, the open banking system is technically just removing the barrier to do business. I mean, to Mark's point and also to Mohammed's point, like what you're doing right now is that you're under the blessing of the bank to get the data, or you go to a third party who would connect with the bank. And now with open banking, first of all, that third party is gone because that's going to save you money because you can access directly. And second of all, it's not about whether the bank agrees or disagrees right now. He's going to have to give you the data. So right now, the way I see it is the bank could potentially start competing with you, because at the beginning of the decade, you were not a competition to him because he had the data on his own. Right now, I realize the data that I own is not technically mine. Anyone could have access to data. So right now, it's going to become what value proposition you give. And that's where the competition is going to increase, not in terms of pricing, but rather in terms of the quality of the product. And whoever offers the best quality using this data is going to win. So I see it as a way that actually a lot of fintechs are going to be able to accelerate much quicker, because I wouldn't say banks were kind of impeding them, but there is a cost of doing business as of today's structure. And the open banking is just going to make it like a level playing field for everyone in terms of the data that banks own. And I mean, we do all know that the financial sector and the consumer paying capabilities in the region is quite massive. So once you own that data, or at least have access to it, like the sky is the limit for everyone. So I think it's going to definitely make I wouldn't say competition, but definitely going to allow people to provide better services, better product offering, regardless of the data, because right now the data is available for everyone.
That's true. On the other hand, too much data also somehow becomes a worry for me, because we will have many innovations and fintechs, let's say, with lots of data about us, about consumers. And we will have on our mobile app telling us to invest and spend and get a salary allowance or whatever. But not all of us are financially literate or financially aware. We don't learn this at school or something, and we don't. Some of us, or most of us, don't know how to manage our money that well. So I know that all of you are really contributing to the awareness of the consumers and the training of the consumers for financial awareness. And I see this responsible action. It's very good to see. And let's discuss a little bit about that. And again, let me start with Nazar and to tell us the FinTech Saudi point of view about financial awareness and after this inundation of data.
We've been doing, our part, because FinTech Saudi, we're working on multiple pillars. And one of them is to basically raise the awareness. So when it comes to raising the awareness, we've worked on multiple, initiatives to basically get everybody, on board and aware of fintechs and, the great things that they can utilize all these fintechs. For example, we did the cheat sheet for the industry itself, and we did the access guide. So we're trying to basically do our best to reach out to people, get the awareness going, and that's basically as I told you, our role or one of our pillars.
Yes, I think it should really start at a young age. And I know FinTech Saudi has the internship programs as well. You introduce young people, students to this world, right?
Yeah, so we have the internship, and also we have the FinTech tour, which is our signature tour. That's also another thing. So the FinTech tour is basically a 10 days tour that we've done for 3 years now, and the numbers are only growing. This year we've did 24 sessions, and more than 4,000 people benefited from that tour from 26 countries around the world. And also when it comes to the internship, so basically that's a program to basically work with the educational system here in Saudi Arabia and reach out to the universities and see if we linking the students who wants to do their co-op with fintechs to basically get them into building these talents.
So if the fintech is introduced into the education system, this would also help, I guess, because that's the future technology in financial services. And as children learn about this, they will also be more open to innovation, I guess.
Yeah, it's basically how we look at it.
I
It's
pass to Mark because this data, this financial awareness is so important. I've never seen so many of my friends and relatives in the stock market, investing in the stock market for the first time in their lives. So this is important that they really are aware what they're doing and do this, with more education. So what do you guys do in Sarwa?
Yeah, we do a lot actually. Since we started, that's been one of our core focus. But you're absolutely right. Like there's been a big shift for the first 2 years, and then last year with COVID, a lot of people that were on the fence finally got started. They were more comfortable. There was a lot of buzz. I'd say there's a gap in financial literacy, but people are super receptive to blogs, videos, content, or just learning by investing smaller amounts and building their way up. And that's something that I think is really exciting because people think that retail investors were going to sell or panic, but unlike the 2008 crash, on the contrary, people were investing more or were staying the course. So yeah, definitely a big shift in like the psychology and the behavior of the investor because of how much content there is at the moment, not just ours, but just in general, about the importance of getting started, of diversifying, having a long-term view, and I would say all of it is positive.
Yes, it's very positive. Also on the lender side, Mohammed, so you guys are also helping SMEs financial awareness because they are really borrowing money, but not all of them are really competent maybe in financial management, and they learn with you. So how do you serve that?
So yes, Narivar. So I think this is, as what the guy said, this is one of the biggest challenges that we have faced at the beginning, that we need to educate the market, that we need to educate all our customers, whether SMEs and investors. So from the SME side, we had to because there are SMEs that we need to do a lot show them how to manage their cash flow, how to present their financials, how to do their forecasting and whatever, their even small accounting things. So we're doing a lot of workshops, we're doing a lot of webinars and publishing a lot of articles through our blogs, and even we're cooperating with the Munshaat and the Riyadh Chamber of Commerce to do these white papers and reports for the SMEs. On the other hand, we had to educate also our investors because they have to know what this peer-to-peer lending and what kind of risk that they might face, and how they have to distribute their wallet and investment. Yeah.
Seems that 2021 will be exciting from this perspective as well, because I remember in the past we were only talking about payment fintechs because there was a big gap in that area as the consumers passed to online shopping. This was filling this gap, and I guess next year or this year there will be more innovations, more different technologies, more different types of fintechs coming. So Talal, do you expect any new things coming to the fintech world?
No, definitely. I mean, we're seeing opportunities day in and day out, and we're just we're excited by the amount of really creative ideas, creative businesses that are coming through right now, and we're just trying to churn as much as possible to observe the right ones or that would fit our investment strategy. But absolutely, with what's happening right now in the market, with the fact that right now a lot of people are taking the risk to start a new company and start new businesses, that there is a gap that they're able to fulfill, and the market now is becoming more comfortable within VC.
Yes. It seems 2020 was like an accelerated learning time for the whole ecosystem, venture capital funds, SMEs.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it yourself, in 2020, who would have thought that for almost half of the year, you're going to be buying your grocery online or you're going to be doing e-commerce online? So absolutely.
So we should expect, more fintechs, more innovations coming, inshallah, and we will be serving still this ecosystem. So I guess this concludes our panel. And so I thank all of you for your contribution. It was really, I really enjoyed the discussion and hope our audience will too.
Thank you very
Likewise.
much.
Thanks for moderating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the startup world, the future cannot be linearly extrapolated from the past. As such, entrepreneurs need to pivot sometimes, especially in the face of extreme uncertainty that they often face. Walid Daniel, founder and CEO of Hala, will put such a common notion of pivoting into a more practical context. Let's learn more of the story of Hala and how Walid pivoted with grace.
Hi, my name is Walid Daniel Deeb and I'm the co-founder of Hala Insurance, previously known as Addenda. I'm honored to be here and unfortunately I'll have to speak virtually as I can't make it to KSA, but I hope to make it to next year's conference. I just want to thank the Jameel Foundation for making this a possibility, and the discussion for today's topic is how to pivot gracefully. I'll explain what I mean by that. So I started Addenda 2 years ago with my brother as it was a blockchain startup, a B2B startup for insurance companies. We were helping them reconcile their payments between each other. And in 2 years, we grew from a team of just 2 people, me and my brother arguing in a kitchen, to a team of about, I think we're 13 now. What had happened was we onboarded 9 insurance companies in the UAE working on our blockchain platform. We had signed maybe 5 or 6 in Bahrain and a few more in Kuwait as well, and reconciled a total of about 30 million dirhams between these companies. But COVID hit and it affects everybody. So with COVID there, the problem was we couldn't charge our clients per transaction because that was our business model. So on the blockchain, what we were doing is we were allowing people to file insurance claims against each other for car accidents. So an insurance company would file a claim against another insurance company and provide all of the required documents, and then that other company would respond and they would reconcile their payments by using our blockchain with the full transparency to do so. So obviously with COVID at the beginning, there was a full curfew and we were not sure as to what the next steps should be. What had happened at the time was there was a lot of arguments in the leadership team, myself, my brother, and our Hwash Ajmera, who's our CTO, were basically debating what's the next step. What do we do? Do we stick to B2B and the blockchain, or do we switch up completely? And it was a very tense time. The decision that we came to was, listen, when we looked at what we were doing, you were working on the last mile of car insurance claims. So it was such a niche segment that even at scale wasn't what we quit our jobs to do. This led to debates that lasted for weeks. What are the next steps? What are the next steps? And then we thought, listen, man, we wanted to do something big. And that something big was basically what we're doing today in Hala. So we pivoted from Addenda to Hala. Hala started as a way to digitize the purchase of car insurance. Today when you buy something on Zomato or Amazon or using Urban Clap or any of these services like Talabat, for example, you want to buy things online, you want things to come to you, to your doorstep, and you don't want to think too much about it. And we figured that when you look at insurance, that's not the case today. You still don't understand what's covered in your policy. It's very poor digital customer acquisition channels for you to buy it online. And honestly, good luck filing an insurance claim from an insurance company online on their website. So Hala, as an insurtech, was the idea to shift from B2B, take our knowledge from car accidents and car insurance back office work, and shift to the customer, become customer centric. The idea here was to build at the beginning a car insurance product that rewards you for driving safe. So for every day you don't have an accident, Hala would effectively reward you with Hala coins. And these coins could be spent on everything from discounts at gym memberships, to free pizzas, to hotel accommodations and the like. So think of it like the entertainer of insurance. The cool thing here is that as soon as we launched this, we saw a lot of appeal from people wanting to be rewarded for good driving behavior, because for the first time ever, the insurance company is actually on your side. But then we realized even that is still smaller than what we wanted to do. So now we're about to launch Hala Home. We want to be able to help you insure all of the contents in your home, everything from your mobile phone to your couches, to your appliances, to your jewelry, to your musical instruments, cheaper than a dirham per day. So that's the kind of the idea that we have in mind. And beyond home, we want to go into pet insurance and then life insurance and things like that, and what we call the lifestyle insurance, or as I like to say it, the Netflix for peace of mind. So it's going to be like a subscription-based model. Of course, pivoting from that to this is not easy. We were down for a total of 1 month, no revenue, and that, as you can imagine, would upset investors typically. You'd have to kind of cancel the contracts you had with your previous partners, and there needs to be kind of a finesse or a graceful way to do it. Of course, we didn't know how to do so, so we had to sit down with our advisors. We negotiated everything with our existing investors, said, listen guys, the financials just look so much better if we move away from the B2B model towards the B2C model. We tried to sell off the business, and in the very last stage of the acquisition, we unfortunately disagreed with the people who were going to buy it. So now we just shelved it, and we're pushing ahead with Hala. And the cool thing is Hala from the first couple of months has already made more money than Addenda did ever combined maybe. So we learned so much by the pivot from switching from this B2B tech-heavy kind of SaaS pay per claim platform that would expand by having more and more insurance companies to a customer-centric digital-first insurance product. And you can't do it without having the consent or the agreement of your team members. And that was something that we learned a lot about, how to negotiate with each other, how to agree with each other, how to disagree with each other. A lot of the things we learned actually from the MIT Pan-Arab competition, which we were the first runner-up for, was communication between team members. And I think we won the batch of 2018 or 19. I'm not too, honestly I can't remember. But that competition put us on a trajectory towards credibility, because right after that we entered Hub 71 here in Abu Dhabi, which basically provides us with incentives that allow us to, they pay for our accommodation, they pay for our office space, and they also cover our work. So, and health insurance. So that was a pretty cool benefit to have from them. And all of that happened, a lot of it happened from the MIT program that we had with Community Jameel. So just going back to the whole pivot idea, what we realized was the fact that we had to inform investors, we had to close down with all clients, and we had to prep the team. So the team had to make sure that nobody's going to get fired, bad things are not going to happen. And fortunately, not a single person had to go from the team. So all of the team's functions changed based on the pivot. And now I'm glad to say that I think it was the best decision we've actually ever made. I'm so happy with the results we've had, and although I've lost 10 kilos, so it was a pretty difficult situation, that single month of downtime was completely worth it, and that single month of stress was completely worth it. So when I called the session Pivoting with Grace, I think you can't really pivot with grace. I think pivoting will come with a lot of teething problems. It will be very difficult, and there are decisions that you have to make that you're not sure are the right decisions, but sometimes you just have to trust your gut. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I had a team with me, a bunch of colleagues who trust my decisions and would actually tell me when I'm wrong and disagree with me. So we probably pivoted several times before setting on what we're doing now, and who knows what the future will hold, right? So I think it's a constant push of failing fast towards achieving a goal where you can be successful. And that, I guess, is the purpose of today's session. I hope it was informative. I hope I didn't talk for too much, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody could have. My details could be provided at the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Entrepreneurship is neither a science nor an art. It's a craft, and more of a practice. Bill Olate, Managing Director of the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship, will talk about the craft of entrepreneurship and why entrepreneurship education is more important than ever.
Greetings, everybody. Salaam alaikum. My name is Bill Olet. I'm the Managing Director of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship, and it's my honor to be with you today. First of all, I'd like to thank the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology of Saudi Arabia, represented by His Excellency Ahmed Al-Thanayan, and who's the Deputy Minister for Technology, Industry, and Digital Capacities, for sponsoring this conference, StartSmart Conference, and the MIT Enterprise Forum. I'd also like to thank the Executive Director of the MIT Enterprise Forum Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Hakayami, for having me here, as well as the Jamil Foundation, Hussein Jamil, Bayan Al-Gambi, who is the head of entrepreneurship programs, is doing so much, not just with MIT Enterprise Forum of Saudi Arabia, but otherwise with their accelerator, and we're so glad to work with you. As you know, MIT is a leader in technology, but in invention. But invention is nothing without commercialization. A patent is not worth anything unless it's commercialized, and that is the essence of entrepreneurship. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Technologies, there's lots of them out there. But it's the entrepreneur who can take it and turn an invention into an innovation that makes some value to the world and makes some difference. So that's what we're here to talk about today, entrepreneurship, specifically innovation-driven enterprise entrepreneurship, as opposed to the very useful and strong SME entrepreneurship that we know so well. But if we're going to solve the world's problems, we need to have these transformative, scalable companies that are driven by innovation. And that's what we do at MIT, not just invent, but commercialize and bring those to market. Today, I'd just like to talk to you briefly about how we approach that and what makes for successful entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs, and innovation-driven companies. I would like to start with the fact that entrepreneurship is not only important in the past, it is more important than ever right now. And I think it's very important to understand that anyone can be an entrepreneur. We're born entrepreneurs. When we've been born over the history of mankind, we trade, we create things, we provide services to other people. So entrepreneurship isn't something that's for a unique group of people. All of us are entrepreneurs. And I think the second part of that that's very important, not only can all of us be entrepreneurs, but we can learn entrepreneurship and we can get better. And that's what we really focus on at the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship, is how do we teach entrepreneurship effectively? And we're seeing a remarkable rise in our success rates. We're seeing now that when we teach people, they go through our full programs, they're still in business at a rate of 75% 5 years later, which is quite remarkable, because the conventional wisdom would have that number being a lot lower. But entrepreneurship is a craft. It's not a science. There is no algorithm that will make you successful as an entrepreneur, because you're doing something that's never been done before. So there can be no algorithm. So then you might say, what's art then? No, it's actually not art. It's a craft. It's something like pottery that all of us can do. We can all make unique products. It's learnable. There are first principles to it, but we must learn in an apprenticeship model. We can't sit down and just be told, here's the knowledge, and the knowledge takes us to the promised land. That's not how entrepreneurship works. It's a craft, not a science, and not art, but a craft, something that we teach. And so I'm proud to be a professor of the practice of entrepreneurship at MIT. And what that means is that we teach entrepreneurship, we create entrepreneurs using the methodology of the 4 H's. The first H in that is the heart. To be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be willing to be different. If all the fish are swimming this way, are you willing to swim the other way? Not only are you willing, do you get joy out of that? Does that get you excited? Entrepreneurs are always looking to make the world better. How can we take the status quo and improve it? Not just same old, but how do we make it better? And that's why we have the spirit of a pirate. We always want to make things better. So entrepreneurship starts with the heart. That's the spirit, the mindset. But it's not sufficient to just want to make things different. You have to know how to make things different. And that's the second H, the head. Entrepreneurship, despite what some people might say, is not intuition. It is not just something you're born with. It is very clear from the research, the more times you're an entrepreneur, the more likely you are to be successful. And so you can certainly learn those first principles, just like we're talking about with pottery, that will make you more successful. And so that's what we teach at MIT. That's the head, that's the knowledge, those first principles. What's a beachhead market? What's a total addressable market? How do you get a high-level product specification? What's a persona? What's a quantified value proposition? What's a decision-making unit, decision-making process? How do we calculate cost of customer acquisition? What's the lifetime value of a customer? All these things that will make you more successful, we know and we can teach. These are not things that are invented in one place. These are they have stood the test of time, and we've used them with thousands of different entrepreneurs and seen them to be successful. So the first H is the heart. The second H is the head. What are the other two H's? Well, it's not enough just to know what to do. I can't want to go into battle and then say, I've studied it, I've seen all the film, the movies and read the books. It's not enough to just have the heart and the head. You must have the hands. You must be able to do. That's why I say entrepreneurship is a craft. It must be taught in an apprenticeship model. We must take that knowledge from our head and get it to our hands to make it real. And that's what we learn. And that's what things like this StartSmart Conference are about. That's what MIT Enterprise Forum is doing. It's giving you the ability to get that knowledge, but also apply it. And then just like with great basketball players, as you can see Larry Bird in the background here, he's always studying film. He's always studying first principles. He's always trying to get better. But he immediately goes out and puts it into practice. So you're going theory, practice, this loop over and over again. So it's very important that you not just have the heart, but the head, the knowledge as to what to do, and you're constantly improving on that, but you have to put it to use in your hands. And that's the apprenticeship model. What's the last stage? The last stage is very important and often, not included when people talk about entrepreneurship. And that's the home. That's the community. Howard Stevenson once defined entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunities with resources beyond your control. And this is the model that entrepreneurs use. This is the model where you don't have to command and control all your resources like I was taught when I worked at IBM. Here's your resources, you own them. Don't let anybody else get to them. In entrepreneurship, we build this community-based model that allows us to help each other. We barter our skills, we barter our expertise to other people. And within that community, that allows us to get expertise from people, get knowledge from other people, and get emotional support from other people. That is very, very crucial to being able to make a successful entrepreneur. Because the old model of command, control, and conquer will not win compared to this dynamic new model of community-based, as long as you have a strong community. Now, that doesn't mean everybody gets in your community. As Rudyard Kipling said, the strength of the pack is in the wolf. Each wolf needs to be strong in the pack, but the strength of the wolf is in the pack. So if you have strong wolves, you create a great pack. That wolf can do so much more. And let me just go on and explain why this is so powerful, because this dynamic model, I can get resources and I can allocate them, and I don't have to pay for them. I don't have to keep them updated. I can have this very rapid response to test hypotheses, to test markets, to test products, to see if they're going to work. And so this community-based model, the last stage of home, is incredibly important to entrepreneurship. So as we look forward here, to creating entrepreneurship, what you're learning now, know that it will never get less valuable. It will only get more valuable. Why do I know that? Because the world keeps getting faster and faster and faster. The rate of change gets faster. And who are the people who are going to thrive in that environment? Not just survive, but thrive. Those are the entrepreneurs. They're the agile, resource efficient problem solvers who get there. And so as the world's rate of change picks up, it's the entrepreneurs who are going to be the ones who are increasingly important. But I will tell you two other things I think are very important. Entrepreneurship does not just exist in startups. I would encourage you, some of you are going to go forward in startups. Congratulations. That's a pure form of entrepreneurship, a blank canvas, so to speak. But we also need entrepreneurs in other parts. We need them in government. We need them in academia. We need them in big corporations. Because it's this mindset, this way of operating, this skill set that's going to help solve the intractable problems that we face going forward. And make no mistakes, there are intractable problems everywhere. And certainly when you look at the Middle East, when you look at the population of Saudi Arabia, and you look at the population of the broader Middle East, you're talking about 60% of the population or more that's under the age of 30. Those people need meaningful jobs. And those jobs are not going to be created by the government or big corporations like Saudi Aramco. Those jobs must be created by entrepreneurs. And I will tell you that when I was growing up, we always talked about the dignity of a job, and I believe deeply in the dignity of a job. But you know what I also believe in? I also believe in the super dignity of an entrepreneur creating their own job. Because when you create your own job as an entrepreneur, it gives you hope. It gives you pride in something you created. And it gives you rigor that you have to get up every day and make it happen, because nobody else is going to make it happen for you. So entrepreneurs are going to be everywhere, and we need them more than ever. And lastly, I would say that the COVID crisis has brought this out in spades. The COVID crisis has brought this out in spades. When you look at the companies that have been able to not only survive, but thrive, they're the ones with entrepreneurs at the helm. They're the ones with entrepreneurs in leadership positions who don't get overwhelmed with negative anxiety about this window just closed. We're sorry this window just closed over here. But guess what? When that window closed, there's some other window that's going to open up that provides us with new opportunities. And it's the entrepreneurs, it's you out there who are going to get to them. And you're going to be the ones who test it with hypothesis. And you're going to realize what the opportunities are there, what the solutions are before anybody else. And we need that. We desperately need that as a society. So I thank you all for having me here. I congratulate all of you, not only for the conference, but for those of you who are in the startup competition, and you're going to be announced as winners today. I hope to see you sometime, someplace, when this thing all subsides. And if you ever get to MIT, please stop by the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship and know you have a friend there. I've really enjoyed my time and friends in Saudi that I have, Omar Al-Mahdi, Majid Al-Ibrahim, Faisal Sakaf, and many, many others. And I hope to get back sometime in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, go forth, be entrepreneurial, be anti-fragile. Don't break in the face of this adversity. Don't break in the face of change. Don't just be resilient. That's the negative condition. Don't just break. That's a negative condition. Don't just be resilient. That's a neutral condition. Be anti-fragile. As you see these changes coming, let's get stronger. That's the mindset. Let's look forward to those challenges. Let's have the skill set to go at it, and let's go at it together in a community-based model. Thank you again. Good luck. Assalamu alaikum, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.
As part of Saudi Vision 2030, the government is forging the necessary commitments to further fuel entrepreneurship. Translating such commitments into action has put entrepreneurship in Saudi Arabia on steroids, as it has been fuel-injected and supercharged by a multitude of attractive initiatives and programs. Let's learn more of some of those programs and initiatives spearheaded by the Saudi SME Authority, Munshaat.
Hi everyone, this is Mohammed Al-Mullah, Entrepreneurship Hub's General Manager from Small and Medium Enterprise General Authority, Munshaat. I'm happy to be part of StartSmart Conference. Today I will give you a brief about Munshaat mission and vision, and also about our ranking engine report. If I start with our vision, I would like to say Munshaat vision is to transfer the SME sector, an essential driver for the kingdom's economic development, contributing significantly to the achievement of the Vision 2030 and beyond. And our mission to support SMEs growth and competitiveness through building a supportive ecosystem and an entrepreneurial society by driving the cooperation with our strategic partners in public, private sectors and non-profit sectors, locally and internationally. This ambition will drive three major outcomes for the SMEs ecosystem: supportive ecosystem, promising SMEs, entrepreneurial society, and our contribution to the GDP by 2030 should be 35%. According to approved definition, more than 99.5% of private sector enterprises are considered SMEs. What do we mean by SMEs? Which is revenue of the company 200 million Saudi riyal or less, or number of full-time employees should be 249 or less. And if we take a look deeply to those companies, we will find 71% of those companies is a micro company, 25% is a small, and 3% is a medium. The strategy will prioritize 12 sectors. I will share with you SME share of each sector. If we take human health and social work activities, it's around 1%, information and communication 0.8%, education 0.6%, arts and entertainment and recreation is 0.5%, real estate activities 0.5%, financial and insurance activities 0.2%. And on the other side, if we talk about the established sectors, we will find wholesale and retailer 26.3%, construction 25.5%, administrative and support services activities 15%, manufacturing 9.5%, accommodation and food service activity 6.5%, transportation and storage 4%. Now, I would like to talk about or give an overview about main initiative from Munshaat. I'll start with the SME Bank. They were a challenge for the SMEs since the current offering of Saudi banks not adapted to SME needs. That's why we, from Munshaat through the SME Bank, will tailor combining direct and indirect debit, equity, and alternative financing. This expected impact of the SME Bank to increase the lending from 8% to 20%. And also we have our SME support center, and the challenge faced by the SMEs fragmented physical infrastructure for SMEs to receive support services. That's why we centralized physical channel offering holistic list of needed support services to SME across 7 locations. And the expected impact of this, 15,000 SME will be supported every year. And also we have SME facilitation. The issue was difficulty in establishing and running a business driven by different priorities of public sector entities with no single entity representing the voice of the SME. That's why we dedicate ease of doing business function in Munshaat, supported by economic modeling, capitalized to proactively assess impact of policy changes on SMEs and provide recommendations on required changes. And this will be continued. and will increase our doing business index. And also we have SME capability building, limited and scattered availability of training and capability building offering to SME, with large share of SMEs performing relatively poorly and need of upskilling. Our solutions one-stop shop, offering mass capability building, leveraging digital channels to reach SMEs throughout the kingdom. And we are aiming to train 150,000 every year. And also we have the franchise model, limited adoption of franchise model outside of food and beverage sector due to lack of local knowledge, limited brand attraction and funding. Our solution holistic franchise support offering kick-starting business model through full suite of services. And this will help around 100 local brands franchise, 50,000 international brands attracted in non-F&B sectors over the coming 3 years. Also, we have our unicorn support program. Since there is untapped unicorn creation potential in Kingdom with SMEs growth capped by market conditions, we dedicate program targeting startups and high potential scale-up companies to transform them to unicorns through dedicated ecosystem support. Also, we have our e-commerce development. Since the limited awareness and capabilities to migrate offering and digital channels with majority of e-commerce transactions captured by international large corporations, our solution is single gateway for SMEs to migrate to e-commerce, offering awareness events, access to global marketplaces, regulatory support, and national level e-commerce training academy, and accompanied by promotion of champions in niche marketplaces. Our expected is to have 25,000 plus new business adopting to e-commerce. Also, we have our scale-up Saudi. It's the difficult facing in large scale-up expansion, driven by lack of necessary guidance and advisory, with number of high growth companies 3 to 4x lower than benchmarks. What we did is company support program aimed at identifying high potential scale-ups and offering them bespoke support through a marketplace of high quality advisors selected and overseen by Munshaat. Our scale-up program is targeting 10,000 by 2030. Entrepreneurship culture promotion. Low level of entrepreneurship driven by preference of employment and high fear to failure. What we did is entrepreneurship activation events aimed at raising awareness of promoting entrepreneurship culture. I'll take just an example of it, BBAN event, which is targeting around 20,000 visitors per year. And according to this, to deliver our journeys, we have across 6 interventions types: driving demand, ease of doing business, access to funding, business support, and also innovation and technology adoption, culture education, and skill development. And this is the overview that I would like to talk about from Munshaat side. And now I would like to give you a brief about the history of the co-working space and incubator and accelerator. In 2007, first technology incubator in Saudi Badr by King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. 2017, there were 20 different operating entrepreneurship support platforms in the kingdom. 2018, introducing the business incubator license to formalize the entrepreneurship platforms as an industry. 2019, we have 111 licensed business incubators running 131 different programs across Saudi Arabia. By end of 2020, we have 161 licensed business incubators. And the level of entrepreneurship has developed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And this is reflected to the index. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 2018 was ranked as number 41 out of 54 and by 2019 it was 17 out of 54. About the GIM report and Saudi ranking, there is an improvement on our ranking. And if we take as example government, legalization and regulations, support and engagement, we were ranked number 33 on 2018, and by 2019 we ranked number 10. And also in job expectations that are created by entrepreneurship, in 2018 we ranked number 36. By 2019 we ranked number 3. In terms of the obstacles of entering the local market, we were in 2018 ranked number 43. By 2019 we ranked number 18. And about the incubator and about the Munshaat license for incubator, accelerator and co-working space, this issued certificates that enable its owners to create entrepreneurship platform. It's divided in 4 sections: incubators, accelerators, co-working space plus spaces. The co-working space plus is spaces that include additional services such as consultation or mentorship. And we have also Al-Hawnet Saudiya. I recommend everyone to take a look at it. It's a collaborative platform that connects all licensed entity owners, and we have a monthly newsletter and yearly reports, event calendar, networking events, and meetup. And by end of this, just for a conclusion, we are in Munshaat happy to support every entrepreneur, if it is locally or any international entrepreneur would like to work in Saudi Arabia. We are happy to support through our Ministry of Investment. He can take the license and start working Saudi Arabia, and all of the services that I talk about it on Munshaat, we can give it and we can support. And who would like to explore this market, we are ready just to give the all information needed. Again, thank you very much for StartSmart Conference for this opportunity, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Kevin Cullen. I'm Vice President for Innovation and Economic Development here at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, KAUST. I'd like to thank MIT Enterprise Forum for inviting me to speak at this, one of the flagship events in entrepreneurship in the region, in the world each year. I believe this is the 3rd time that we've partnered, and this is a partnership of which we're very proud, and we're delighted to participate in this with you. I've been at KAUST for 3 years, just over 3 years, but I've been in this business for 25 years. And I can honestly say that this university is the most ambitious university I've seen anywhere in the world. Our ambition is to change the region, change the world through the use of technology. I describe my job as getting university research put to use to benefit the economy, society and community. We do that in a number of ways, but entrepreneurship is vital. Entrepreneurs are in fact the vectors or the vehicles who take our technology and turning it into companies, turning it into products, services, outputs, happiness, healthiness, wealthiness, greenness, the things that we call impact. Alongside entrepreneurship, we have the KAUST Innovation Fund, which is a mechanism by which we can invest in these startup companies and accelerate them towards the marketplace. Our innovation ecosystem, our innovation community at KAUST is growing. Takadam, which is our flagship accelerator, doubled in 2020 during the pandemic, doubled to 59 startups. Our investment fund that I just mentioned did 21 deals. That was valued at over $11 million. We trained 2,739 entrepreneurs. And if you think about that, that's a remarkable number because KAUST only has 1,600 students. We trained almost double the number of entrepreneurs as we have students. That's because we bring entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs in from across the kingdom to become part of our innovation ecosystem to become part of our entrepreneurial ecosystem. We describe KAUST as the deep tech heart of the Saudi economy, and I think that's an appropriate description because we do world-class research. By any measure, our research is world-class. We're number one in the world for citations per member of faculty, one of the key academic measures. We're actually number 4 investor in MENA. A report last year described us as the number 4 investor, and again, think about that, that's astonishing. We're a university that is doing this level of entrepreneurship education, entrepreneurship activity, entrepreneurship investment. I'm going to finish by mentioning the pandemic. The pandemic itself has changed everything. You know, almost exactly a year ago, we did an experiment to go remote, planning it for one day, and we haven't been back in the office since. So the pandemic has brought challenges, but it's also brought opportunities. I'm sure for many of the startups here, you've experienced those challenges and you've developed those opportunities, pivoting as our own startups have all the way through the journey. And talking of journeys, I see this as a journey for KAUST. It's a journey that we undertake with partners, and we're very proud to have MIT Enterprise Forum as one of those partners. Journeys are always more enjoyable and more effective when you have good travelling companions. We see MIT Enterprise Forum as a key companion on this entrepreneurship journey. So thank you again to MIT Enterprise Forum for inviting me to speak, and I wish you good luck with the forum.
And we're supporting the startups this year with providing them with mentorship, access, knowledge and resources. This is the first time working with MIT EF Saudi Arabia, and we look forward to a long-lasting relationship.
Hello, I'm Arwa Shafi from the KAUST Entrepreneurship Center, and I helped train the entrepreneurs in the MIT EF Saudi chapter this year how to do product design. We walked them through a challenge on design thinking, where we applied multiple tools, methodologies, and strategies that hopefully will help them gain better insights and design tools that are based on their customers' needs.
This year at the MITF competition in Saudi, we train the startups on how to monetize. So we have to answer one very important question: where does the money come from? Figuring that out the right way is the difference between growing sustainably and spiraling out of control. So this year, all of those who are doing it right, growing with their customers, and doing it sustainably are going to grow profitably for the foreseeable future. And we're excited to see where they go.
So it gave me a paradigm shift on wow ideas that no matter what, if you're not achieving explosive growth, that there is something wrong, either in me or in my idea or in my execution or the business model or all. And I'm super excited to solve it.
صراحة لفت انتباهنا إلى إنه إحنا نحتاج نركز على العميل ونحط نفسنا مكانه عشان نفهم المشكلة وكيف نحسن طريقة العرض لتصل الفكرة إلى أكبر شريحة بكل سهولة. شكرا لكم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. With the success of this year's 5th MITEF Saudi Startup Competition, I want to first thank the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology for generously supporting this annual competition and for continuously supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much. I also want to thank the Ministry of Investment, Munshaat and Kaust for their continuous support of this year's competition. And all our partners who made this year's competition a success. Thank you very much. I want to extend my gratitude to MIT Enterprise Forum in collaboration with Babriz Jamil for making this event possible for the 5th year running. Most importantly, all the participants this year have shown great potential, bringing their innovation and passion to Saudi Arabia's private sector. I believe all of you will play a crucial role in transforming Saudi Arabia's entrepreneurial future. Well done to you all. The 27 teams that qualified for the finals of this year's competition also deserve a special congratulations. It is individuals like yourselves that will drive innovation in the way we do business and provide the kingdom's private sector with distinct competitive edge. I'm sure your contribution will resonate through Vision 2030 and beyond. I constantly think, as Vice Chairman of Community Jamil, and reflect how our progress has come over the last 75 years. I always think of how we can continuously improve and tackle some of the world's most urgent challenges. Through Babriz Jamil programs, we have provided support and interest-free loans to entrepreneurs together with remote work and home-based job programs. The implications of the COVID-19 pandemic call on us all to do precisely that. Work together and support one another. After all, entrepreneurs and SMEs are a vital part of this economy in Saudi Arabia. By the end of this decade alone, Saudi Arabia aims to scale the contribution of SMEs to a national GDP from 20% to 35%. And they will play a key role in our economic recovery after this pandemic. The ideas and innovations shown by this year's participants reinforce that we have some of the finest, brightest talent right here in Saudi Arabia, and we can achieve that goal. I thank all those who entered this competition, those who made it possible, and those who helped nurture our entrepreneurs. To all our participants and finalists, I urge you to continue with your endeavors. Whether you win or you don't, your future ventures will be successful, inshallah. Of that, I wish you all the best future, the best of luck. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
حياكم الله، سعيد بتواجدي معكم في هذا الحدث النوعي. نؤمن في وزارة الاتصالات وتقنية المعلومات بأهمية ريادة الأعمال الرقمية، حيث أنها أحد ركائز الاقتصاد الرقمي، والشركات الناشئة اليوم تلعب دور مهم في رحلتنا نحو تجسيد التحول الكامل والشامل. يسعدنا رعاية الدورة الخامسة من مسابقة منتدى MIT للشركات الناشئة من مجتمع جميل بهدف تحفيز بيئة ريادة الأعمال الرقمية وإثرائها واستكشاف المواهب الريادية الوطنية ودعم نموها، بما يتناغم مع استراتيجية الاتصالات وتقنية المعلومات 2023 لتمكين حاضر مترابط ومستقبل مبتكر لرؤية المملكة 2030 الطموحة. مثل هذه المسابقات تعد استثمار حقيقي في الكوادر الوطنية ودلالة بأن الجهود كافة تسير بشكل متكامل نحو مستقبل مشرق وواعد. إخواني وأخواتي، سعت الوزارة خلال الفترة الماضية إلى خلق نموذج فعال لدعم مسيرة ريادة الأعمال الرقمية في المملكة العربية السعودية من خلال توفير بيئة متكاملة تدعم رواد الأعمال والمبتكرين في مجال التحول الرقمي، تربط بينهم وبين المستثمرين، وتفتح الأسواق أمامهم وتحول أفكارهم الريادية إلى مشاريع ناشئة قابلة للانتشار الواسع لتغير المجتمع والعالم من حولهم للأفضل، حيث تم إنشاء مركز للابتكار والريادة الرقمية وتقديم الدعم والخدمات لما يزيد عن 300 رائد ورائدة أعمال، وإطلاق أكثر من 500 نموذج عمل رقمي جديد، وتدشين 14 معمل للابتكار بشراكة فعالة مع القطاعين الخاص والعام بهدف دعم الشركات الناشئة في مجال الخدمات التقنية والفنية والاستشارية. ختاماً، كل الشكر للإخوة والأخوات في مجتمع جميل على تهيئتهم هذه البيئة النوعية والمحفزة المتمثلة في منتدى MIT لريادة الأعمال الرقمية ومسابقة MIT، وكلنا أمل في أن تحقق هذه الدورة ما نصبو إليه للمضي قدما من أجل مستقبل مشرق لمملكتنا الغالية، ودفعا لمسيرتنا التحولية الغير مسبوقة لبناء حاضر مترابط ومستقبل مبتكر.
On behalf of the Genomes team, we would like to thank MIT Enterprise Forum, Saudi Arabia, for choosing and believing in us. Thank you.
Oh yes.
Nice.
Hi, we are so excited to win this competition. Thank you so much MIT Enterprise Forum, Saudi Arabia team for arranging such a competition. It was awesome experience, and also thank you for all the associated activities to this competition. We will keep the engine alive and roaring until StarSat reach orbit. Thank you again.
مبروك الفريق.
ألف مبروك.
بالنيابة عن شركة QDX نتقدم بشكل جزيل لمنتدى MIT لريادة الأعمال لاختيار شركتنا كشركة فائزة بمسار الشركات الاجتماعية مسابقة MITF السعودية.